Hey everybody, welcome to Tim's Vinyl Confessions. I'm Tim Derling. I have a very special guest with me. He hasn't been on in a while, but he's certainly been on before. You know him from Too Loud, Too Old Music, Mr. John T. Snow. Hello,
Oh, it's
sir.
over here. Hello, how's it going, Tim?
Yes, got the logo up there
It's up here, yes.
and some rock books, and I see one in particular that's on display. Thank you very much for that.
Yep, I'm
Uh,
still in the middle of that one. Yeah.
it's a pretty
It's a big
substantial
book.
read. Yeah, yeah. I'm quite proud of how that came out and a lot of great contributors. But we're here to talk about an album that's been out for a few weeks now and a band that, to be quite honest, John is the first person that I've come across that I talk with on a regular basis that knows about this band because if you follow John on social media, he posts a Sunday song. And a few weeks ago, he posted, I believe the song was We Will Provide
We will provide, yeah.
from this band. And I thought, great, John likes Inglorious.
Yes.
Because I do too. There aren't a lot of newer bands that I like, but I got into this band. They've only been out for, I think, less than 10 years now. Their first album came out in 2016. But
Yeah.
I'm curious, John, how did you hear about this band?
Most likely it was Andrew McNeese's website, melodicrock.com.
Yeah.
That's where I found like Heat and Wigwam and the Poodles. And I came across Inglorious and that vocal of Nathan James. And boom, I was in at that point. I heard his vocals and man, what power.
Yeah.
So that kind of got me hooked. And so I don't have every single thing yet. I'm the debut album I just ordered and it should be here. I'm thinking early next week, and then I'll have every album that they've done. So,
Actually, yeah, I'm the only thing I'm missing from them, I don't have their Heroin album, which is where
oh,
they cover all the songs by female artists. And
yes.
what's interesting, now unless I've got this wrong, they're obviously not counting that as a studio album
No, no, they're
because
not.
otherwise this would be six.
Yeah.
I mean, but it is, even though it's a
It
covers album.
yeah.
And
I
I've
mean
got the
I would
live
have
one, the
had that
live
one.
at the what is it called? Not the Marquee, but
Yeah, I've got that one too.
yeah, you know
Um,
the one I mean. But
yeah.
I
And
think I saw someone post a video to the song Until I Die, which is the first song on the first album. And I heard about this guy, Nathan James, as this great singer, and I watched it. And to me, it's like a modern Whitesnake, Deep Purple type of band with this really
yeah,
commanding lead vocalist. I mean, so they've got the keyboard, they've got the organ sounds. I know
yeah.
the band has been through quite a few changes in lineup too. Nathan James has been the constant, and he's a fantastic singer. And I just think they've gotten better as
Oh,
they've
they
gone
have.
along. I was really glad to find out that they sort of reconvened because as far as I know, they had broken up. But really, it's only been 2 or 3 years since they last released anything, so they haven't been away that long.
No,
So
and it was, but all the members were leaving. And like I said, he's had a lot of turnover in the band.
yeah.
And yeah, after that last album, I was like, okay, we gonna get anything anytime soon? And years went by. It's not, 3 years, I think, is the gap. And that's a long
Which
time.
isn't
And
really isn't that long.
it can be, I mean, in some people's minds, it can be in the music business, it can be a long time.
Yeah. Now this
But
band is on Frontiers Records, which means that um in Frontiers Records generally it's melodic
yep.
and if they're not signing a classic band like Night Ranger, then they're signing new talent that are kind of reminiscent of those types of bands. Like I said, I get sort of a White Snake-ish, Deep Purple, maybe Rainbow, well, the whole Purple family, because you've got
Well,
the organ in there, but most of all, you've got Nathan James' incredible vocals. So, but
and it's funny you say
unfortunately,
that. Yeah.
Frontiers doesn't have the. I don't think I've ever found a Frontiers album in a store. I've always had to send for them. That's just my experience.
No, I would agree with that. I think everyone I bought, I had to buy online.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is, it's not bad. It just means that you got to search for the stuff. I don't know how they do in the UK, which is where they're from, but what were you going to say there?
I was going to say the funny thing you said about Deep Purple and David Coverdale, because that's kind of how I label. I have his vocals more like a Coverdale style, mixed with a little bit of Dio. Even you could even go with some Chris Cornell in there too. There's just
Yeah,
a
very
whole range of
high,
stuff.
raspy singer. And also another guy that he reminds me of a lot is that Dino, um,
Gillette.
yeah,
Yeah,
who's was in the last iteration of Whitesnake. He
yeah,
sounds, they sound a lot alike to me.
yeah. Now that kid's good too.
Yeah.
I'm just getting into him. So
I've only actually got the only thing I've got with Dino on it right now is the Triumph tribute CD. He sings "Fight the Good Fight," and to tackle one of Rick Emmett's songs, you've
it's
got
not an
to
easy
have
task.
you've got to have some chops. So yeah, Inglorious, really good, modern hard rock band that, in years past probably would have been a contender on the charts and things. I mean, I think that if you're a fan of any of the groups that we mentioned, when I say Deep Purple and Rainbow, there's nothing goth about them. It's very commercially minded, like old school commercially minded hard rock. But they do have some more expansive passages. If you like any of the last few Europe albums, you'll find a lot to like here. It's just very easy to get into, I find, because John's more open-minded than me, and I think people know this by now just from the bands that I cover. I'm very, very picky on newer bands. Most of the time, sadly, they don't last. That's
Right,
one thing. Or they
right.
branch off and they do a bunch of different things. And I even thought that was happening with these guys because Frontiers loves throwing a bunch of different guys together. Yeah, I knew, yeah, iconic. Now, who
Yeah.
is all on that? That's got a lot of different
That has
players.
got Michael Sweet, uh, Marco Mendoza, Tommy Aldridge, and Joel Hoekstra with Nathan
Yeah,
singing. So you got
yeah.
Nathan singing, but Michael Sweet's in it. And he's not the singer of it. I mean, he does some in it, but it's mostly Nathan, I think.
So there you go. So there's an example. I remember when that was announced, it was like all of these other guys had already made a name for themselves. Nathan hadn't been around long enough. Like
Mm-mm.
wait until, he gets a bit more. But anyway,
Yeah,
I also think that, am I wrong in saying that Nathan has also participated in TSO? Am I right about that?
he did. I think he did that early on, I think.
Yeah. So that
Um,
would probably be how he knows Joel.
right.
And Joel Hoekstra actually, there's at least one song I think on the first album that he co-writes. So if we're kind of talking about bands that are in your ballpark, folks, definitely check out Inglorious. And I don't think, I think that even though there's been a lot of lineup changes, it's a fairly consistent sound. You kind of know what you're going to get from these guys.
Yeah. This
Um,
one, though, Colin Parkinson is back. He was the original bass player.
that's right. Yep.
And I think he only missed one album, but he was one of the major songwriters in the
Yep.
band.
Yeah.
And
So
so
this is
now
very
he's back
reminiscent
and
of the first
yeah,
couple, I think.
yeah. And he's
Now
back
what's
and you can tell. You can tell.
what's interesting about this hasn't happened for me buying a new album in a long time. This used to happen a lot when I bought cassettes.
Oh,
3 booklets. It's got 2 extra booklets inside of this.
let's see. I have one.
Yeah. And the thing is, they're not just single panel, like it's full lyrics, credits and everything and pictures. So I was like, I remember when I got this, it felt funny. And I opened it up and these booklets fell out, and I'm like, well, what's this about? But yeah, they gave me 2 extra booklets here. Um, it is I believe it's self-produced, so it's produced by again, Colin Parkinson. So
Colin
yeah,
Parkinson
he
did it.
figures
Yeah.
in quite heavily on this one.
Yeah.
Um, and he is a great bass player. Like
Oh,
when you listen to these tracks, it's not just the one note stuff. He's
mm-mm.
actually
Do you
writing bass
remember?
lines.
Did you ever listen to Talisman with Jeff Scott Soto?
I don't believe I've heard any of their
Okay.
stuff.
The bass player Marcel Jacobs, the late,
Oh, he
late
was
Marcel.
great. Yeah,
He
he
is,
played with John Norum and yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
He reminds me, Colin reminds me of him and a lot of his style, and then the songs, the way they're done, because that bass it's powerful. It's just as big as the guitar in this.
Um, I mean, any standout tracks, but on the other hand, I like all the songs in here. What are your thoughts?
As far as there's a couple standout tracks for me. The opening track. Testify.
Oh well, yeah, they always come out of the gate burning with a good
And
one.
it is burning. But for me, the best song I think, or my favorite song on it, I can't say it's the best, but it's my favorite, is the last one, Power of
Power of
Truth.
Truth. Yeah.
Yeah. And then I think Stan would be my top. Those would be my top three.
There's one song on here. I can't remember if it's Silent or End of the Road. It's towards the end of the album. And when I say this, I mean in a good way, reminded me of the Winery Dogs.
Oh, I'm trying.
So
Yeah.
if you've got a bass player that reminds me of Billy Sheehan, you must be a pretty good bass player. Not that it's busy, it's just really good and very, very well recorded.
I think it's got to be End of the Road
Maybe
because,
that's it. But it reminded me specifically of something off Winery Dogs 3, their newest album. And I was
yeah,
like, oh, this is not a ripoff. It put me in that space and I'm like, I like this. This is
yeah,
really good.
I think it's that one because on Silent, I don't have any notes on the bass, but on End of the Road, I have slam and bass work
That
because
must be
he
it.
was just going to
Yeah.
town on it. So,
And I can't remember what Winery Dog song particularly or it reminds me of. Now, you know, just about every song title, because I mean, we're in 2025, just about every song title has been used before. That's
oh yeah,
something that I noticed, but I mean, they're writing new songs around these. I will say, yeah, you mentioned the first track, Testify. I like I don't know if you'd call it the bridge in this song, but the background vocals are very cool.
they're
They're a
him. I
little,
think all the backgrounds I think are Nathan.
man, he's incredible. I mean, he opens
Yeah,
his mouth and sounds great. I wish they would. This is the type of band you wish would get an opening slot
on
for, a lot of the bands that we talked about or members thereof or whoever's still out there doing this because this is the type of band if they got on a medium-sized tour and were able to sell their CDs at the merch booth, I think they'd move some units because they're
yeah,
experienced now. They've got almost 10 years under their belt. And no matter who they've had in the band, they've had good sounding albums. They've had really good cover art. It
yeah.
stands out. And I'd be curious out there as to, we got any other fans of this band out here? Because like I said, I very rarely go for newer type bands because I find that a lot of the time, one of two things happens, John. Either they don't stick together, they put two albums out and then members go here and members go there and nothing catches on, so they don't really have time to start building a catalog. Or they morph into something I'm not really into. They start sounding too modern.
Yeah.
This is not the case with Inglorious. They're staying in their lane. They're really staying
Yeah.
true to that 80s melodic hard rock sound. And like you said, there is a little bit of that Dio with extended arrangements, extended guitar solos, but it's very accessible music.
Yeah. It's this one I think is even a little bit heavier
I think
than
so
maybe
too. There's a lot of
yeah.
drop tuning on here, I notice.
Yeah. So I don't know. This one just I mean, after hearing Testify, I have to say out of the albums I've bought this year for new releases, I've listened to this one more than any other album I've bought this year. Even The
When I
Darkness.
Yeah, when I keep coming back to something, that's a good sign.
Yeah.
And I keep coming back to this album. I keep putting it on, and like song for song, there's never anything I want to skip, and there's just, I need to. But honestly, I need to get them. I need to listen to this band more because they're one
Right.
of those, because they're not a band that I've listened to for 30 odd years. Sometimes you forget. You put them on, and you're like, I need to listen to these guys more because every time I listen to them, I think, they've not done a bad album.
Right.
All of the albums have been really consistent, and yeah, and I'm a sucker for a powerhouse vocalist, and they've got one in this band.
Yeah.
I mean, with all of the lineup changes, you could kind of say like he's the Coverdale of this band, right? I mean, he's
That's yeah,
steering the ship.
I would definitely put him in that realm.
But it's
Yeah.
nice to have Colin Parkinson back in the mix.
Yeah, because since he is such a good songwriter,
Yeah,
I'm assuming he's doing a lot of the music.
I
I
would say, I would say, and probably Nathan's writing the lyrics. I would
yeah,
say,
and now this one I did notice there are a couple of his albums that had a lot of religious themes, and this
right,
one has some more. This one has more devil stuff, um,
right.
but
Yeah, Devil
less.
Inside,
But it
and
still
yeah,
has that. I'd be intrigued to talk to him and ask some faith questions on how he feels because he does intertwine a lot in his music. Not as much on this album,
Yeah.
but he has in the past. So,
Yeah, I've noticed that too. That would be interesting because I mean, most of the time, a lot of the lyrics aren't just words that rhyme. They
right.
mean something to them. And yeah, and you're right. And they're not just there, there are your typical relationship songs too, but
There's a
there are
lot.
other ones that are more broad and have like a more of a worldview uh to them.
Yeah. Which is, I think, Power of Truth, I think, is a lot of that.
Yeah.
Um,
And it kind of makes sense that that's the closing track. It's like and that's another thing. It's the closing track for a reason. They want that
yeah.
to be a statement.
And it is because it starts off like acoustically, and then about 2 minutes in, it just explodes. And it
Yeah.
just, that song ends. I'm sorry, I would say flip it over and start again, but I would just let it on repeat and just let it keep going and
Yeah.
play again.
Yeah. Yeah, unfortunately, I don't have any. I've just got CDs. I know most of their albums are available on vinyl, and it's probably
Yeah,
one of those cases where, if you didn't get them when they were new, the price just goes up, 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 up because they only pressed so many.
yeah. That's why
Yeah,
for them, I'm all CD. Anything
yeah.
Frontiers, I'm generally just CDs. Um,
Uh, yeah. For me, it depends on the band, but yeah, you're right. I don't have a lot of Frontiers vinyl. I've actually only got one Frontiers cassette. I've only got one cassette on Frontiers Records.
I don't have one.
Yeah,
What do
and
you have?
it's Toto's Falling in Between
Okay.
from 2006.
Okay.
So
2006. Wow.
yeah, yeah, not too many albums being pressed on cassette then, but there
No.
were a few. But anyway, yeah, this is that's what we think of Inglorious 5. It's actually Inglorious 6. I mean, I suppose you get the V and the star there. You could probably work an I in there somehow if you tried. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's their fifth original, album of all new original music. They've also got that covers album Heroin and the live album.
Right.
But if you're over in the UK, I'd be curious to know what do you think of these guys? Have you seen them in concert? We're looking for the fans out there because, like I said, it's only a band that I talk about when they have a new album out.
Yeah.
That's really the only time I've discussed these guys, and this is the first time I've had a guest because, like I said, I didn't know where the fans were. So I'm really glad that John. I always like your Sunday songs anyway because they're very interesting, and you always do great write-ups on them. But
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you.
I was intrigued when I saw the cover first,
Yeah.
like the horse, and I was like, oh, I know it, I recognize that, and I'm like, oh, cool, he likes this band, and so that's when I reached
Yeah.
out. It's one of those things. We John and I we've known each other for a long time, but we have a lot of the same bands in common. But there's those bands on the fringes that you just don't ask about every single band.
Yeah. I don't usually bring them up because I'm like, no one knows who they are.
But
And so,
sometimes that's the sad thing, and honest, I did that for years with Y&T because people would always trip on that, and I'd have to
yeah.
explain what the name meant and who they were and who
Yeah.
they kind of sound like. So after a certain point, it was easier just to say, you know, it's just to not mention them. But now I mention them whenever I can, and I don't care.
Well,
But that's
you have a bunch of,
because we're in the age now where I've met a lot more fans.
right. There are. Yeah. Well, you've
And it's
made a new one
the,
because
I'm
there
so
were a
glad,
band I didn't really go after
so
until your
glad
book.
that is the most gratifying thing. And that's one of the really cool things about all of my books when people come back and say I bought this album and that album and I really like them. Yeah. And
Yeah.
Y&T fans also, you probably already know, but if you don't have those first two albums, go get them from Rock Candy before they're
Yeah.
gone because those sometimes have a shelf life on them too, or a
Yeah.
non-shelf life, I guess. So,
Yeah.
John, you've got Too Loud, Too Old music. You do a lot of cool things on there. Tell folks about it that haven't subscribed yet, but are just about to based on your description.
Oh, okay. For Too Loud, Too Old Music, we have a website where I do a lot of reviews. I'm kind of going through a Kiss bootleg review series and throwing new stuff in. I've got a Billy Idol review coming soon. But I do a lot of reviews. I do a Sunday song. If you want to see what new releases are coming out on Friday, I post as many as I can find. But it's just my love of music. It's kind of going through the collection. And then I do have a YouTube channel where I do show off the collection and stuff. So tomorrow, or actually, it was the day we filmed this. would have been one of my wrap up shows. So, um, but I do a monthly wrap up showing everything we added to the collection, and then I go through and just talk bands that I have and show the stuff off. So kind of get the word out there for some of these bands, but some of the bands are just normal that everybody knows, and I'm just showing off what I have. So it's fun. It also gives me a chance to touch the collection again because you get to a point you have so much you can't listen to it, so it gives me
Ex-
a chance to just pull it out and go, oh
e-
yeah, I have this.
exactly. And I find most of the time if you do that, the next step is you're going to want to listen to it before you put it away again.
Yep, that's
Yeah.
what happens.
So,
Yeah,
and John and I have another episode in the works. We haven't filmed it yet, but we're planning on it. So it's going to be a super geeky collector's episode. And the
yeah,
only other thing I'll say, it's a band that we've talked about on this very episode. We've mentioned them.
yep, yeah,
And if you look behind John, you'll see evidence of them. So
yeah, yeah, yeah,
we'll leave it at that too.
yeah.
So yeah, so John, thanks for sitting in with me for to talk about this band and this new album because yeah, they need talked about more.
They do need it. So thanks for having me. I was so excited when I found out I had a fellow friend that knew who they were.
It's a weird thing and it's a fun thing. It's like finding out somebody else's, never mind heard of them, but actually likes them too. And it's like,
Yeah.
oh, cool, great. And now we can chit chat about this, and I don't have to try and describe them. You already know what they sound like. So
Yep. Yep.
So, all right, folks, that's our 2 cents on the new Inglorious album, Inglorious 5. Check it out. Probably have to order it in. Want to hear from other fans out there. What are your favorite albums by this band? What are your favorite songs? Have you seen them live? Let's talk about Inglorious. And don't forget to hit subscribe on Tim's Final Confessions and also Too Loud, Too Old Music. We will see you again. Thanks for watching this edition of Tim's Vinyl Confessions.